Welcome to Dark Truths. Religion Uncovered, a space where the sacred and the contemporary collide, revealing the often unspoken depths of our beliefs. Here, we sit at the intersection of ancient altars and modern stages, inviting you to reflect on the questions that lies beneath the surface of our spiritual practices. We challenge you to consider what belief, in its often muted form, has quietly abandoned over the years. Tonight, we're confronting a stark reality that lies buried beneath layers of comfort, ritual and symbolism. Worship has never been meant to be without cost. In the realm of ancient theology, worship was intrinsically tied to sacrifice. It wasn't handled lightly. Worship costs something substantial: time, security, livelihood, reputation, and yes, even blood. These sacrifices were not metaphors, but visceral, heart-wrenching losses that bore witness to the faith that inspired them. When we consider Abel's offering, it cost him the very life of his lamb. Abraham's altar nearly meant the sacrifice of his beloved son. For the people of Israel, worship was a sensory experience filled with the smoke of offerings and the blood spilled on altars. It was a truth that was lived and felt, not just an abstract concept. In this ancient understanding, something precious always had to die for worship to be considered genuine. However, in modern beliefs, we often see a shift where sacrifice has been replaced by sentimentality. Worship can become mere expression rather than a true offering. Our songs become the altars, and our emotions stand in for the surrender that once marked genuine worship. We give God our words when it's convenient and our attention only when inspired. But this is a far cry from ancient theology. The ancient scriptures wouldn't recognize our modern ritual as genuine worship. They would see it as a performance devoid of the necessary cost. The scriptures doesn't treat sacrifice as an act of cruelty. It regards it as a fundamental truth. Sacrifice highlights what we hold dear and unearths our attachments, identifying our priorities in a world filled with distractions. That's the painful nature of sacrifice. It unveils truths we might prefer to keep hidden. In contemporary beliefs, we often evade this, as it disrupts our delicate balance. Faith today is often expected to fit neatly around our lives, instead of repositioning them. Ancient belief commanded no such separation. To worship God was to boldly declare that something else no longer held dominion over our hearts. Modern faith, conversely, often resists making such a bold proclamation. Sacrifice gets spiritualized, internalized, and postponed with justifications like, "God knows my heart." Yet, ancient theology would argue that God has always known our hearts, which is precisely why he demanded the offering in the first place. Those offerings were never meant for divine benefit but served as a means of clarity for us. As sacrifice fades from our worship, its transformative power diminishes. It shifts from being a confrontational act to a mere moment of affirmation. Ancient worship sought to challenge our deepest fears, greed, and attachments by demanding true surrender. In stark contrast, modern worship often provides comfort for those very attachments, lulling us into complacency. But Scripture doesn't promise comfort. It promises refinement and deeper truths. Even the cross, often seen metaphorically, was brutal, costly, and irrevocable. Christianity doesn't dispose of the idea of sacrifice. It redefines it entirely. When Jesus says, "Take up your cross," he's not referring to an inconvenience, but to the profound reality of surrender to a higher calling. Today, while we celebrate the cross through songs and art, we may resist the profound implications of living it out. It's crucial to remember that ancient theology insists that sacrifice did not stop at Calvary. It was transferred. The altar has now moved from the temple to the self. As Paul writes, "Present your bodies as living sacrifices." It underscores the expectation of offering not just our feelings, but our very lives, our choices, and our actions. This language might seem extreme today, but ancient faith embraced it as honest and necessary. Worship that demands no costs reveals nothing substantial about us. Sacrifice clarifies allegiance to what we truly value. Without it, our beliefs become vague and indistinct. When nothing is prioritized enough to be sacrificed, nothing is reordered, creating a faith with no power to redeem anything. Tonight, we bring forth a stark truth. Worship devoid of sacrifice is not genuine worship. It is simply expression. An expression without surrender cannot create real transformation. Ancient believers understood this foundational principle. Unfortunately, it seems that modern belief often loses sight of it. We conclude by posing a question that ancient theology would boldly present to our contemporary faith. If your worship never requires you to sacrifice something of real value, then what exactly are you offering? Thank you for joining us for Dark Truths, Religion Uncovered. We invite you to share your thoughts below. Has sacrifice truly disappeared from our understanding of faith? or is it simply waiting to be Let's engage in this important conversation together.